Hey there, my name is Trent. This is Practice Makes Better Music, and today I'm going to pick up where I left off in my last video and continue with part 3 of a series that's intended to help you become a better improviser and come up with better guitar parts. And we're kind of diving into some important ideas for how to create musical ideas out of technical patterns. So technical patterns could be anything from scales to arpeggios to chords. And when you're trying to create solos or interesting parts or melodies out of those patterns, sometimes people have a challenging time really knowing what to do. And so the first 2 videos, we covered some rhythmic ideas, and we also covered ideas like motifs and motific development. If you haven't seen those, it's not crucial that you see those to get something out of today's video, but they might help, so I'll link those. I'll try to link those on the screen. Though I'm not super tech savvy, we'll figure it out. Somebody commented on the last one that I should do that, and they were right. I should do that. So I will do that right here. But today we're going to advance those ideas a little bit further, and we're going to talk about a couple of things, but an important development of what we've been talking about in relation to rhythm is syncopation. So we've been looking at quarter notes and eighth notes and combinations of those different rhythmic durations. Today we're going to look at syncopation. So I wanted to start by just reading you a definition of syncopation and then kind of translating that into more tangible language. So I've got this book. It's a drum book. Ooh, that's Progressive Steps to Syncopation for the Modern Drummer. I'm not much of a drummer, though I do enjoy playing the drums, but I like the description they have in here. I use some of these exercises to practice rhythm, and I also do some drumming practice and stuff, and so I use some of these for that. But it says syncopation occurs when a temporary displacement of the regular metrical accent occurs, causing the emphasis to shift from a strong accent to a weak accent. So that's pretty wordy. I'll read it one more time and then I'll kind of interpret it. So syncopation occurs when a temporary displacement of the regular metrical accent occurs, causing the emphasis to shift from a strong accent to a weak accent. So essentially, that's a very kind of fancy way of saying that the strong beats are replaced by what we would think of as the weaker beats in syncopation. So strong beats would be like your beat 1, 2, 3, 4 if you're counting in 4/4 time. Your weaker beats would be the ands, so the in-betweens. So instead of just 1, 2, 3, 4, you could put the stronger emphasis on the ands, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, something like that. That becomes syncopation. And why is this important? Well, what I'm going to demonstrate in the first part of today's lesson is the contrast between syncopated and non-syncopated rhythms. And what I hope to show you with these different rhythms is how much more interesting a simple rhythm can become when you add a little bit of syncopation. So, like I said, that's going to be the first part of today's lesson. Then we're going to go into some exercises with different syncopated rhythms just to help you build up some skill with some syncopations, try some different things, and give you some things to practice. And then finally, the last part of today's video is going to be a development of our motific ideas that we've been talking about in the last couple lessons. So we've got some more advancements of that concept, which motific development is an extremely important concept. That's why I've been talking about it in the last couple videos, but this is a really kind of where the rubber meets the road for creating musical and interesting melodies and solos. So motific development, super important. So that's the order that we're going to go in today on today's video. I have a printout PDF sheet that you can download via my website. If you're there, it's right under the video. If you're on YouTube, you can check the description for a link to the page where you can view this and download it and print it if you want to. But we're just going to start with, like I said, contrasting syncopated and non-syncopated rhythms. So here we go. So the shape that we're going to be using today is based off of this chord. This is like a C shape, if you're familiar with like a caged system. I don't use the cage system. I don't think about it like that, but I think about the big three, which I've talked about in some other videos, and I will talk about more in the future. But to me, this is the second inversion big three shape. And if I move across all 6 strings, I can play all these different triads in this one position. And the big three shapes are the 3 close triad, meaning we're not skipping any chord tones, going string to string across all 6 strings, making these big shapes that we can derive different triad shapes from. So we're going to be in this position here, and we're primarily going to be using the top 3 strings, or bottom 3 in relation to the floor, highest sounding 3 strings. We're going to be using this shape right here where I'm on an F chord. I'm on the 5th fret of the 3rd string, 6th fret of the 2nd string, 5th fret of the 1st string. And this is a little kind of same shape we would use for a D shape. It's also the same shape as the top 3 notes of a C chord, except in an open C, we're not actually fretting those. At any rate, that's where we're going to be. And we're going to be using this shape because, like we did with the shapes we used in the other videos, this is an easy shape. It has a nice major scale that sits right very comfortably in this shape. So we're going to be using these notes. So for the first part here, we're just going to be using those notes. Here's our F note on the 2nd string. This is a second inversion F triad. And so if I start the scale from the 5th, from C, 5th fret, 3rd string, C, D, E, F, that brings me up to the root note. Then I have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if I go F, G, A, B flat, C. So that might be helpful to run a couple of times for you if you just go C, D, E, F. That's 5th fret on the 3rd string, 7th fret. Then we switch to the 2nd string, 5th fret, 6th fret, 8th fret. 1st string, 5th fret, 6th fret, 8th fret. And then we could walk back down, 8th fret, 6th fret, 5th fret, 8th fret, 6th fret. That'll land us on F. So we could play. That can kind of just get you into this basic position here. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to play you an idea that uses regular rhythms, just accenting. It's going to be a little bit kind of a square sounding rhythm. And you'll just hear how this sounds really basic. And then I'm going to spice it up by shifting the quarter notes forward in time a half step, creating syncopations. You'll notice that the second one, it looks a lot more complicated when you look at the sheet music, but that's because it has to indicate, all of these anticipations where you're playing the note before the strong beat. So I'll start with just number 1, and this is very, very simple, and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll try the syncopated one. So I'm going to hit that metronome, and I'm on 120 here, 120 beats per minute, because these are actually, no, we're going to slow it down. We're going to go to 100. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to repeat it. And resolve back to the F. So that sounds very basic. And I'm just playing half note, quarter, quarter, half note, quarter, quarter. And there's nothing particularly interesting about that. But let me play the same exact idea this time using some syncopation. 2, 3, 4. You may have heard a difference there. The syncopated one really has a lot more of an interesting sound because you're offsetting the accents and putting them in sort of surprising places. So if I play them back to back, I think you'll be able to hear this really well. So here I go, number 1 and 2, back to back. 2, 3, 4. Number 1 again, repeat. Here's number 2. So I think that the second one starts sounding a lot more musical. Still a very simple idea, just a basic little scale motif using essentially quarter notes. But if you look at the first and the second one, what's changed is that the first note of the pattern in example 1 is a half note. So that's going to last for beats 1 and beat 2. In example 2, you've got a quarter note with a dot, which, in case you're not familiar, that means that you're going to hold that quarter note for the length of 1 quarter note plus an eighth note. So that'd be 1, 2. Then your next note is going to come in on the and of 2. And that's where you get this rhythm where you're going 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4. Instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That sounds very much like a basic kind of march, I guess, or just a very simple kind of introductory beginner's song. But once you get into the syncopation, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. It sounds so much more interesting and musical, and that's why we are exploring this today. I'm going to speed up the metronome a little bit and play it just so you can hear what it sounds like a little bit faster. I think it's even more stark of a difference. So here's 120. So here's number 1. Repeat. And now number 2, syncopated. And I can feel it in my body when I get to that syncopation. It gets to be exciting. It's like it feels much better to play that for me, and I think it will for you, if you just go back and forth between these two examples and just try them and try them at different tempos and see how it feels. Now, reading this second rhythm, it can be a little tricky. There's a lot of tied notes, but if you have a little bit of trouble figuring out what the rhythm is, just, listen to the way I played it slow and try going back and listening to it a few times, see if you can get it. And also, think of the measure being divided up into 8 parts. Each eighth note is 1 part. A quarter note would be 2 parts. A quarter note with a dot would be 3 parts. And so those are all the different subdivisions that are in this second example. So I've got one more example to demonstrate the contrast between syncopated and non-syncopated rhythms. Another one, very simple example, and the syncopation, again, works wonders for it. So I'm going to slow back down to 100, and we'll give this a try. So we're going to look at example number 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's example number 3. This is totally square, on the beat. Every strong accent is right on the beat. So it sounds kind of marchy. Now let me play it with the syncopations. All I've done, just like the other one, I just moved most of the rhythms just after the first note up a half step. So, or not a half step, excuse me, a half of a beat. So they're coming a half of a beat sooner, giving all our strong accents on the up beats or the what would normally be the weaker beats. So let's see how that sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Already sounds a lot more interesting. I'm going to do 3 and 4 back to back here. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. So again, the feeling of number 4 with the syncopations is so much more interesting and musical and exciting to me. I'm doing it at a moderate tempo here just to demonstrate, but if we speed it up, it becomes a lot more exciting. Start to feel it, so work it at different tempos and see how it feels to you. But I just want to count out number 4 real quick, just so that I'm hopefully not losing anybody with these rhythms. So example 4 here, it starts with an eighth note, and then we've got 3 quarter notes. And there are a few different ways to write these types of rhythms. Sometimes you have, eighth notes tied together. You can also have a quarter note that's starting on the and in this case, you've got eighth note on 1, and then the quarter note starting on the end of 1. That's going to last for and 2, and then the next quarter note is going to be and 3. next chord note, and 4, and then there's an eighth note on the and of 4 tied to an eighth note at the beginning of the next measure. And so the way that it's written out can be a little confusing. You can use a combination of your eyes and your ears. Listen to how I play it. I'm going to count it out for you, but syncopations can get a little tricky when you're reading rhythms, so it is good to practice and to really kind of spend a little time looking at it, trying to figure out how to read the rhythm properly. So I'll count it out real slow. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And made a mistake there on the note, but the rhythm was correct. I'll do it one more time. 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and. So I'm going to take examples 3 and 4 up a little bit in tempo. We're going to try 130, getting spicy. And that'll demonstrate even more like how much cooler the syncopated rhythms are. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So anyway, it seems really clear to me that the energy and life that the syncopations give to the music is so much more interesting than playing those rhythms straight. And it's not that you're always going to be playing syncopations. If you did that, you would never, it would sound just as weird as if you never played any. But I think it's more common for people when they're starting to solo, especially if they're not super familiar with different rhythms, different styles of music. If they're having challenges with learning to solo, it's more common to play on the strong beats, and then to wonder, why does this not sound that cool? I don't understand. So adding some syncopations, just practicing these syncopations, and then getting used to the feeling in your body. And then letting that feeling kind of guide the way that you're playing. What I mean by that is like you start to feel like a bounce when you're playing syncopations. There's kind of just like a bounce. A lot of times there's a physical aspect of it as far as you're picking. When I'm doing this syncopated one, I can do upstrokes on all of the ands. So I'm going down, up, 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 down, up, down, up, 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 up. That's going to really help me feel those syncopations. So I would suggest using your picking directions to be able to more accurately play these rhythms. That's going to help you a lot. But you'll feel that kind of jumpiness of the syncopation, and that'll be something that you'll be able to kind of go for in your solos after you have kind of incorporated some of this stuff under your fingers. So where we're going to go next is to some exercises that are just going to be drilling some syncopations. And basically it's just moving some of the syncopations around to different places in the different exercises. We've got 6 exercises, 4 shorter ones, 4-bar, and then 2 8-bar exercises. And So I'll just walk you through those. We'll talk through each of them, and then I'll play through all of them so that you could use that as a bit of a practice along. You could just play it along with me, or you could practice it on your own with a metronome if you want. So let's take a look now at the second part of today's video, syncopation exercises. Ba, ba, ba. Okay, so the first exercise is going to be one measure where we're playing on the one, and then we're playing on the and of one, holding that into beat 2. So you can see in the example here, it's written as an eighth note tied to another eighth note. That symbol means that, in case you don't know, maybe you do, maybe you don't. I just want to, describe it anyway. The tie will make the second note hold into the third eighth note in the measure. So the second and third eighth notes are tied together, meaning you hold the second one, you attack on the second one, the and of one, and you hold that through the first part of beat 2. And then you have the next note, which you hit, and then is tied into the beginning of the next beat and tied. And then we have an eighth note on the last half of the fourth beat, moving into the second measure. So the way that this rhythm sounds, I'm going to clap it out. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4. Measure 4 is just a dotted quarter note, so it's the length of 3 eighth notes into an eighth note, tied to a half note, so that eighth note happens on the end of 2 and then holds for the rest of that measure. So the scale patterns we're doing here, it's all just based on that same shape I showed you at the beginning. We're going to be mainly focusing on, well, we'll be doing the whole thing actually on these exercises. So, and even moving a little bit beyond for the last 2 exercises. We'll get a little further down the scale. But for this first one, we're going to go from here. So we've got a little descending scale motif, button and 2 and 3 and 4 and going down from the 5 to the 1. And then we do the same idea, going down from the 4 to the 7. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So the first 2 measures, 3, 4. And 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then measure 3. We're going to reverse the pattern and go back up, starting here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3. So I'll do it real slow and count it out one time, and then I'll play it at tempo. So ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4. Now I'll do it at a slow tempo, moderate, slow to moderate, 80 beats per minute. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Repeat. That's example 1. And just to reiterate something I said earlier, whenever you're picking on these exercises, and a lot of times just in general, you want to be picking down on the downbeats, up on the upbeats. For eighth notes, that'd be down on the 1, up on the and, down on 2, up on and, down on 3, up on and so on and so forth. If you were to be doing 16th notes, it's just twice as fast. So you'd be doing down on 1, up on E, down on and, up on but it's essentially the same idea as the 8th notes. It's just you've got your strong beats and your weak beats. Down and up beats is another way to say that. So when I'm doing this, I'm going down, up, 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 down, up, 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 down, up, 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 down, up. That helps me keep the time properly. So exercise 2. We've got 2 tied notes. We've got 8th note at the beginning, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We're going to be hitting the last 3/8 notes of each measure. So it starts off very similar to the first one, but then opens up on the last 3/8 notes of the measure. I'll play that one for you. Same exact kind of motif, except we've got an extra note or 2 in here. That'll show you. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4. Do a little slower. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4. Slightly different rhythm. Here we go with the metronome. Exercise 2. 1, 2, 3, go. Exercise 3 takes the pattern from exercise 2 and kind of flips it around. So we are going to start with 3/8 notes. Well, 4/8 notes. The 4th one is tied. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's our one measure rhythm. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Same type of motif on these scalar lines, so I'll do it once, slow, without messing up. Trying to count and play sometimes screws me up, but here we go. And then I'll play it with a metronome. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4. Okay, with the metronome. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1, 2 and repeat. Okay. Number 4 is going to be kind of a cool one. I like this one because we've got less ties, but the tie is going to hold over a bar line, which is kind of a cool effect. So if you look at it, you've got a tie from the end of 2 to beat 3, and then the end of 4 to beat 1 of the next measure. And that kind of gives us a chance to anticipate the pattern of the next measure. Instead of starting the new pattern on beat 1, we're starting on the end of 4. And that always gives you a nice kind of pull forward into the music. You'll notice that with melodies, you can always, or solos, it can add some really nice forward motion if you hit right before the 1, the and before the 1, or say maybe the last 16th note before the 1. Just to add some nice kind of interesting momentum going into it. So this one has a cool feel. So I'll do it once, or I'll clap it once, count it once, and then play it. So 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3. So 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3, 4. Has a cool, as I mentioned, it's got that kind of momentum when you hit that anticipation. That's called an anticipation, anticipating the first beat of the next measure by playing on the last subdivision of the measure before. 1, 2, ready, and... repeat. Okay, so that's examples 1 through 4. Now 5 and 6 get a little more tricky. They're just 8 measure patterns rather than 4 measure patterns, and they cover a little more ground and have syncopated rhythms that span across about 2 bars. So the pattern is more of a 2-bar pattern. So, but it does incorporate some of the ideas that we did before, where we're playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but then the syncopations continue into the second measure and let up at the end of the second measure. So the first 2 measures is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... So the syncopations, as you heard there, they continue into the second measure, and then we're going to climb back up through an arpeggio after we play down this whole scale. We're going to go from this C, climb up the F major arpeggio all the way up to this C. So we've played the scale down from C to C, C to shining C, and then arpeggiate up. And we're going to do the same motif moving down. And here we're going down to the 8th fret on the 4th string, so now we're expanding a little bit out of our comfy little 3-string shape, but... And we're going to arpeggiate out of that. And this is the 2 chord in the key of F. This is a G minor arpeggio. And this is a shape that I think about as being connected to the second inversion G minor big 3 shape, which I'm playing here. But when we get down to this note here, we're going to come out of that by going 7th fret 3rd string, 8th fret 2nd string, 6th fret 1st string. So starting back at the beginning of exercise 5, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. And the fingering you want to use there is to hit the 8th fret on the 4th string with your 3rd finger. That way you have your 2nd finger ready to play 3rd string, 7th fret, your pinky, 4th finger, ready to play the 8th fret on the 2nd string, and then your 2nd finger again, ready to play the 6th fret on the 1st string. So Then from there, we're going to go down from this note, A, 5th fret, 1st string, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. And here, now we're going up an A minor arpeggio. And that one's easy. All you got to do is kind of roll your first finger across the 5th fret on all 3 of these strings. And then we conclude with 2, 3, 4. So the last bit of it, last 4 bars, 3 and 4 and 1 and 3. 2, 3, 4. Whole thing with the metronome with the repeat, so I'll play it twice. Oh, did not start. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat, go. So these are exercises, but they are still following kind of the idea of motific playing. They're 4-part motifs, really, where we have kind of 4 different ideas happening. In this case, it's a 2-measure idea happening 4 different times, although the last one is kind of a resolution. And if you remember, if you watched the earlier videos, I talked about motifs and development, meaning developing and changing them. The only development that's happening in these ones is really just changing the starting position, but that is a form of development. But then we're also resolving them to a strong note, such as the tonic or the root note of the key, and that's what's happening here. We have kind of the 4th phrase being, or the 4th motif being, a resolution of the idea. So we've got one more here. It's almost exactly the same as this one we just did, except just a slightly different rhythm. So I'll just clap out the rhythm. You can see it on the screen, and I'll count it and clap it, so that way, and then I'll play it for you. So 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 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 3 and 4 and. That's the basic rhythm. All I've done is moved the tied notes to the and of 1 and of 2, and then we have 3 notes in a row where we're playing. We'll kind of switch that from the beginning of the measure to the end of the first measure, the rest staying the same as exercise 5. So I'll play it once and count it, and then I'll play it with the metronome. So ready, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. Then we would repeat it. So just shifting that rhythm a little bit gives it a very different feel. I like this one. So here we go with the repeat. 2, 3, 4. that is the completion of section 2. Now I'm going to do a practice along. We're going to do it at this tempo, 80 beats per minute. If that's too fast, YouTube has this nifty feature where you can slow things down and speed them up, but you could just slow it down to 75%, say, and it should keep the pitch the same. And you could practice along. If you wanted a little faster, do the opposite, speed it up a little bit. Or you could even just go print out the PDF and just turn on your metronome at whatever speed works for you, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to play the whole of section 2 here, exercises 1 through 6. I'm going to make 0 mistakes and play it perfectly. And then we're going to move on to the final little piece we have for today, just talking about some motifs and motific development. So here we go. Let's do it. Okay. 1, 2, ready, go. Repeat. Two. Repeat. Number 3. Repeat. Number 4. Repeat. Number 5. Repeat. Number 6. Repeat. And that is that. Now, if you sped those up to a more kind of standard playing tempo, it would sound pretty cool. You could even just kind of double time, make them into kind of 16th note runs. So those are, I like those ideas. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I think they will help you get some syncopations under your fingers, and I think that will help you come up with cooler ideas for your solos. So finally, the last part of today's video, we're just going to look at 4 different Motific development ideas and example exercises. I had I said a fair amount about this in the last 2 lessons, but this is a very important theme when we're talking about improvisation and part building, melody writing, all of those things. Motifs are really what gives your sound, what you're playing, a cohesive sound. And you actually, not everybody does this consciously, but I think they're at some level, even players that are just playing very intuitively will do this, because you play an idea and move immediately onto a completely different idea. Sometimes that can sound cool, but it can be kind of tiring. If you repeat the same ideas with some development and resolution, all the stuff that we've been talking about, you can create something that sounds really cohesive and interesting. And so I think that it's just a better approach, especially learning. If you learn this way and don't just fly by the seat of your pants trying to come up with cool ideas, really develop motifs, which are just small musical ideas that are repetitive, and you can develop and change as you go. This is going to set you up to play really cool, interesting ideas. They don't have to be super complex, but they can be really musical nonetheless. So we're going to look at 4 examples to close out the lesson today. So I'm just going to play through the first one. I'm going to try to go kind of quickly through these. You can always slow it down and repeat sections if you want more practice time. I'm not going to do a ton of explanation, but these are just utilizing some of the syncopations that we've been talking about today and applying them in different ways. So here's number 1. One thing I forgot to say is that all of these 4 ideas are going to be over a chord progression. It's a 1, 5, 4, 6 in the key of F. So if I played F to C to B flat to D minor, those are the chords it's going to be over, meaning that's the underlying harmony I'm going to be playing on. So this is kind of touches on some stuff that I talked about I've talked about before, like chord tone soloing, trying to follow the chords. So these motifs are going to be following these chord tones. So the first one goes on F, and then here that's kind of a C major pattern. So it's like a little F major scale run to a C major scale run, and then to a B flat, so I'm kind of following F, C, B flat, D minor right here in this position. Two, 3, 4. And 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2. So the motif is just this. It's kind of the first half of the motif is what I'm repeating. Got a similar chord or scalar movement to it. So that's idea number 1. Number 2 is this. I'm just going to play through it. 2, 3, 4. 1. This is a very arpeggiated kind of idea, outlining these chords using these syncopations. So I'm going, and I'm reaching up to the 10th fret of the first string, which we haven't done in this position yet, but it's an easy, well, a fairly easy reach. If you're using your third finger on the 8th fret, you can reach up to the 10th fret. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. So that's a C major triad arpeggio, and then I'm playing a B flat arpeggio, and 2 and 3. That right there is a B flat arpeggio. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. And then playing a D minor arpeggio. So my motif is kind of this syncopated arpeggiated idea. So 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. If I play it a little faster. Another way you can play over those chords. So it's kind of an arpeggiated approach. Okay, number 3, I'll just play it once. 2, 3, 4. And these are kind of, to me, they sound like two kind of motifs instead of, or like a motif repeated 2 times instead of 4 times. It's like the second one is kind of a response to the second measure is kind of a response to the first measure. That's the second measure. The first measure is 2 and 3 and 4, and then second measure feels like a response, and then third measure and the fourth measure, kind of the same thing. So it's kind of an A-B, if you will, if you're calling the first pattern A, second pattern B, third pattern is kind of like a restatement of A, fourth pattern is kind of either B or kind of its own thing like a C. So but there's a cohesiveness that runs through, and that's really the point of these motifs, is that you're not just playing random ideas that are different every measure. You're trying to build a cohesiveness to it. So anyway, number 4, this one's a little more tricky, but a little more fun. Added some 8th rests here to make it a little more jumpy, syncopated. So the rhythm is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. Same in all 4 measures. But so we have, I'll play it slow, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So at the end I'm reaching all the way up to the 10th fret again. So it follows basically the same patterns we've been doing so far on these motifs, but again, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3. With the metronome, 3, 4, 1. Okay, here we go. We're going to play the 4 Motific development exercises in a row with repeats. No mistakes, hopefully. 1, 2, ready, go. Oh, made it. Just barely. Okay. So, just like anything, practicing at this tempo is probably, it doesn't sound the best, but get it under your fingers. The point of me providing you so many different exercises in these videos is not that necessarily you'll practice the same ones all the time, but I just want to give you plenty of things to practice. It's good for your brain. It helps you expand your brain. If you find things that really resonate with you, let's say you really like, certain exercises from today or one of the other videos, keep with those. Print it out and practice it. Incorporate it into your daily routine, because these things need to be, you got to be practicing stuff all the time. The more you can get familiar with these patterns, the better they are going to sink into your subconscious, and that is the idea. So we're going to take this further in the next video, part 4, and that should be coming out next week. If you followed me up to this point in the video, I appreciate you being here. I hope that I have been able to show you something. I assume that I have. This has been helpful to you if you're still watching. So anyway, I just want to say thank you. And I will keep working on this because my goal is just to help people improve and have more fun with music. So till next time, practice hard and remember to enjoy the journey, and I'll see you in the next video.